Hey everybody. I'm your host, John Myers, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey everybody. Gotta have my notes. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked Studios. Gotta have my notes. Alternator. Hey everybody. We have fun. Hey everybody. Hit like and subscribe. Right here, right now. It's John Myers. We like to give stuff away. Alternator. Post some more pictures. We got to thank Steve and Becky, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Don't forget Texas Roadhouse, right here, right now. Hey everybody. Don't forget, right here, right now, we have got a great show tonight. Hey everybody. Had a great dinner tonight. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. Had a great dinner tonight. So, hey everybody. So, housekeeping. Had a great dinner tonight. So, alternator. Housekeeping. Housekeeping. 7:30 on Tuesday night. Housekeeping. From the Kicker UnMasked Studios. Housekeeping. Right here, right now. Hey everybody. So, it's John Myers. Hey everybody. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked Studios. Hey everybody. From the Kicker UnMasked Studios. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey everybody. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey everybody. Right here. Tell me when, man. Tonight on UnMasked, we're going to talk about the Spring Break Edition, marine products, radios, speakers, subs, amplifiers, wiring, everything that you need to know marine-wise. What about Jacob's misadventures, everything he learned on his last trip? Find out about that spider that Bill sent me a picture of at the hotel in Chicago. We had a great trip in Chicago. We'll talk all about it. Take it away, Ernie.
It's been a long road since the original Kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Music is my passion, my livelihood, and it's in my DNA. My pals at Kicker Marine Audio gave me a chance to take the music, what I love and listen to, at home, on stage, and in the car, onto the water. Hi, this is Jason Bonham, and I want to say a big thank you to my friends at Kicker Audio for inspiring the songs and the stories behind the music that inspires America. Go overboard! This is your time.
Welcome, Unmasked family. If you haven't seen us, you don't know who we are. I am Jacob Lucky, and you are?
I'm Carlos Jimenez.
So, like we said, spring break edition. Mom and Dad are away. Aaron and John have taken vacation. So we're going to have a rager tonight. We're going to have a fun party at the Unmasked studio. Ernie's our DJ. We're just going to talk about cool stuff, man, marine stuff. You know, we love and enjoy all the marine product. We get to go to some really cool shows. Speaking of shows, Jacob, talk to us about that.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of this tonight, guys, because it's Carlos and I's first time hosting together on the show. Normally we've got Aaron or John here, and they're like driving the show, you know, but we're going to try something a little bit different. But yeah, I just went to Shiflett and Dixon show in North Carolina and Charlotte. I was hanging out with Dennis Montgomery and those guys, and played some Top Golf one day, and then after that we went and hung out with the guys, and then worked the trade show the next day, and had a lot of good quality interactions.
So I hear you actually beat Dennis at Top Golf.
Oh yeah, I beat Dennis at Top Golf. If you guys don't know Dennis, he is a huge golf guy, and
he's a huge guy. Well,
yeah,
everyone's huge compared to me.
He's tall, but yeah, I mean, you ought to see the stool he was standing on. But yeah, Dennis, he's a huge golf fan, and he took us out to Top Golf, and I actually beat him. I got like 15 or 20 points more than him, and I've never swung a golf club in my life, but Dennis was making all sorts of excuses. He's like, oh, I got to go to the chiropractor, and you know, if I was using my golf clubs and my golf balls, I'd be whooping you, and you know, stuff like that. So it was a fun trip. But there were a lot of cool kicker vehicles there. Somebody had built a motorcycle with the Street Series product, and there were a pair of 7-inch and 9-inch ST Series in the saddlebags, and a pair of 1-inch and 1.5-inch tweeters on the saddlebags. And this bike was actually painted the same orange that is on the ST Series packaging. So it was a really loud bike, and not just sound-wise. But Carlos, where did you go?
Well, before I get to the Chicago trip, before that I was in, geez, I can't even talk. I was in Puerto Rico. It was actually pretty fun because we hadn't been to Puerto Rico for quite a while. And we've been working with our distributor in Puerto Rico for a few years on making a training trip. And the last time we planned a training trip, and they had booked a hotel, they booked a hall, they had all their accounts from the island come in, book their hotels and everything. Everything was set up perfect, and we get a hurricane.
Oh, are you
so
serious?
yeah, I mean, it took so much planning, and so they were a little reluctant at first about, you know, let's do this again. Obviously, they wanted to do it. They want to get Kicker's name out there again, but it was just, you know, you're scared of a hurricane coming through because, I mean, a lot of things went wrong. I think my hotel, they didn't want to reimburse me for my hotel, and American Airlines also didn't want to give me credit back. And this was right before COVID, if I'm not mistaken. So it was difficult, but it was really fun to get out there and see these customers. Like we say, yes, I mean, it's a different world. What we're used to here in Oklahoma, Jacob, is different from other territories. I mean,
you mentioned that they designed their sound systems a little bit different in Puerto Rico, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, they do a lot of business with some of these supposed pro audio companies that, you know, they're super inexpensive, no warranty type product, and that's really big over there in Puerto Rico. It's called boceteo. It's something that you see it in a lot of the islands in Dominican Republic. It's huge, but it's, you know, they got a lot of bandpass systems where you're just playing, you know, certain frequencies where you can play loud and you can put a lot of power to it, and you're safe. You don't need a lot of power because you're not playing super low in frequencies, so you're just playing voices, and that boceteo means just really loud voices, and that's really what they were gearing towards.
Oh, so no bass.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like they think everything below 40 hertz is a waste of information.
Where the heck have I heard that before? So, I mean, it was pretty cool to see the systems that they were working on, to see the systems they designed, the way, I mean, it's really high-end stuff, but it's older technology, I would say, as well. So you still saw amplifiers, you still saw EQs, crossovers, Just a lot of different old technology incorporated into the new products. So it was pretty cool, pretty eye-opening, and it was very informational for those customers too, to talk to them and show them exactly what we're doing. And we're just not a one frequency, one hit wonder type deal. We like to play music. So it was very eye-opening to them to be able to hear some cars with complete sound systems. And it was good. I thought it was great. We got a lot of orders from that, so that was pretty cool. What about you, MasterTech? Let's talk about MasterTech.
Oh, yeah. MasterTech was cool. I'm sure I saw a few of you guys down there, but MasterTech was a great show, as usual. If you guys don't know what MasterTech is, it's where all of the best in the industry come to learn from the best in the industry. And they have a couple different paths that you can go down, like a high-fidelity path where you learn about tuning. And this year they spoke a whole lot about phase and aligning phase and how to do that with REW, a free program for the computer, and the JL tuning software. And it was really educational, and I think that kind of direction where we are doing the last, I think Andy said that we already know how to do the 90% of installing and tuning a car stereo system, and what they were teaching us is how to do the last 10%. And I think that that's the next direction the industry is going to be moving in, is doing that last 10% and making sure that we make these sound systems sound as good as possible. But besides that, they had a lot of fabrication classes. They had a lot of sales classes for those shop owners that are trying to boost their footprint online and to have better interactions and retention with their customers. But they have a huge outdoor area with all sorts of vehicles, and we were doing hair tricks with the Bronco out there. And they had all sorts of competitions and things inside, like a build-off. John was there, yeah.
Did you do a hair trick with him?
Yeah, all four of them. But it was a really good show. What about when you were in Puerto Rico? What about marine audio? Did you see a lot of marine stuff down there?
I feel so dumb that I didn't think about it. I was just, so excited about new products and talking about the stuff that we were going to talk about that last training that it just left my mind to talk about marine. And so, like, 30 minutes before, or it was actually about an hour before we actually did the training, I had to go in there and change my PowerPoint, add marine products, because it's a big deal. I mean, same thing in their marine industry is they're trying to use that boceteo stuff, that it's super loud, you can hear it down the block, but once you start getting close, it sounds terrible. I mean, it is what it is, right? That's what they're looking for. They just want to grab that flash, right? And it's inexpensive. Like I said, it's pretty cool. For the first time, it's cool to talk about it and experience it, but man, your ears will bleed.
Yeah, you kind of need that, in my opinion, you need that bass to balance out the rest of the system.
Yeah, I mean, you want to hear all the music, right? Not just the voices. So, I mean, again, very instructional, but, it's a different world, just like we talk about here. Back when I was in Chicago, there was a different type of customer. What worked in Chicago isn't what worked in Oklahoma, Texas, right? What works in Miami isn't what works in Los Angeles. So, I mean, it's just understanding the different needs of the customers, what the customer needs, and being able to fill those needs. And I think Kicker does a very good job of filling the needs of what everybody wants. Because in reality, what we're selling, the products, we're not pushing products, right? We're not selling products. We're selling an experience, and that's what it is with music, right? It's fun. It's exciting, and that's what we sell, fun and excitement. That's what we do.
We sell experiences, not products, right?
Exactly.
But as you guys saw in the title for the show, we're going to be talking about our marine products and what exactly is Kicker Real Marine. And Real Marine is something that we talk about here, and it's, I guess, what you would call a standard for Kicker products. So Real Marine means to us that our products are real marine products. They're really ready for that rough and tumble environment that you get with like salt water and salty air, and when you're on the lake you've got sun exposure, things like that. But this is a whole list of standards that we have, and things that the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, kind of put forth, like regulations and things of that nature, and a couple other organizations like the ABYC and the NMMA. But
tongue twister, right? I know.
Yeah, all these acronyms are just hard to keep up with if you don't talk about them every day like we do.
But the whole thing is safety, You know, that's what we really want to put out there, is that we're not taking car audio products, painting them white, and now they're marine. We're actually putting technology behind them to make sure they're safe, because we're following the guidelines of U.S. Coast Guard, ABYC, NMMA. Those are the governing bodies that, you know, that you want to be in the graces of, to be able to be selling OEM or be an OEM boat supplier.
Yep, exactly. Particularly safety when we're talking about like charging systems and power wire in these boats. One of the things that we have to be really conscious of, well, before I get there, Carlos brought up a good point about painting car stereo speakers white and calling them marine. And we actually learned that lesson as a company several years back. When we first started breaking into the marine audio market, we were pretty much doing that. We were using stamped steel grills that were painted white, and we were using like cardstock terminals, because that's how speakers were designed. But we weren't really, we didn't really have any experience with speakers in marine markets, and we didn't know what kind of deterioration to expect and things like that. And we learned the hard way.
It's a hard lesson to learn, but it's a good lesson to learn. That way we were able to address those problems head on right away, where we're seeing a lot of manufacturers are still having those issues today. They haven't addressed them, and they're still, they claim to be a marine product, but in reality, like we said, they're just taking a car audio product that sounds good in an enclosed cabin, and we're putting in that open atmosphere where it's not going to perform and give you the sound that you're actually paying for, right?
Yeah. Yep. So we kind of rebooted our marine product several years after our first attempt, and we actually started designing and developing these products specifically for the marine market. And some of the things that we did was we eliminated any exposed metal on our speakers, and the exposed metal that we did have, we made sure that it was 316L stainless steel, which essentially means it's a different type of stainless steel than what you guys would sometimes find in like silverware, like cheap silverware.
Wait, stainless steel is not, it's not rust proof?
No, stainless steel is not rust proof.
So you're saying the screws on my license plate in the back, why, so they're supposed to rust?
Well, I wouldn't say they're supposed to, but I wouldn't say they're made for that purpose.
Or a shower curtain?
Shower, yeah. You guys ever seen a shower curtain with brown streaks going down it from the rusty, you know, hangers? But sorry, I can't keep a straight face with this guy on the show. But 316L stainless steel is basically an alloy of metal that has added molybdenum to help protect it from corrosion.
Added what?
It's molybdenum. It's another element, a different type of metal.
Less carbon.
Yeah.
What happened to molybdenum?
Yeah. But anyway, so all of our exposed metal is 316L stainless steel, so it's not going to corrode. It's not going to rust. It's not going to do any of that stuff. Like what you guys see here on this bracket for the KMTC-11 tower enclosure, that's all 316L stainless steel. And those brackets are a pretty big cost of the enclosure itself, because we wanted that enclosure to hold up to the elements and to, sorry, I can't get it back, hold up to the elements, not rust and things like that. So we actually include anti-seize with the bolts as well, so that they don't corrode and stick inside of there. But,
another good thing about the 316L is it will resist heat, right? So we've all seen, like, let's say at the park district, some of these park districts will have like a grill out there, right? And you see the bottoms, they're supposed to be stainless steel, but the bottoms are all pitted and gone through the bottom. So it's because of the high heat. 316 stainless steel will also pit and corrode in high heat. It doesn't handle high heat because of the carbon that's in there. That's why the L stands for less carbon. So it's gonna withstand pitting and corrosion through being exposed to the sun, because these aren't ever exposed to the sun, right? And it's going to stand up to salt water fog. So good example of salt water fog. Do you remember we were in Mexico? So just in case you guys didn't know, Jacob and I are pretty tight. You know, we hang out quite a bit. My kids love him. My son thinks he's his favorite babysitter. But we've also vacationed together when we were in Mexico.
Yeah.
Remember at the bar that we were at the pool, that it looked like it had so many layers of paint on it, right?
Oh,
And so-
yeah, they just kept slapping paint over the structure, but like you could clearly see underneath that it was rusting away. They just kept doing the landlord special on it.
And I love that. OSU, right? Stillwater Landlord Special. Well, that's the big deal with saltwater fog. It is very corrosive. Even outside the hotel, the TVs that they had outside, they were outdoor TVs. But it was that saltwater fog is very corrosive. So these will stand up to saltwater fog. All of our marine lineup is designed to withstand, and we have a special way of testing for saltwater fog as well. So I mean, we do the stuff right, so it can last, and it could, how can I say, it could be reliable through time. So you got what you're spending money on with our product is technology and safety. You got it.
Yep.
Big deal.
Yep, and if you guys have ever seen a car, like if you're big into classic cars and you've ever looked at cars that came from like a coastal area or like in the Rust Belt, you've seen what can happen to those exposed frames, and or even on like certain boats that weren't really taken care of and cleaned like they were supposed to after each boating season, you can see that salt water really starts to corrode things and be hard on them. But a couple things that we do to cut down on that is with our marine speakers, when we rebooted and redesigned the line, we made that basket out of composite materials moving forward. So this is going to be like a nylon composite material on the basket. And it's going to be resistant to sunlight, it's resistant to UV damage, so it's not going to fade or anything like that. And it's also resistant to corrosion. That nylon holds up really well, but what we've also done is we've taken and made that motor structure completely sealed on the backside. That way, water can't encroach and get to the voice coil or the electronics of that speaker. So you've got twofold protection with that kind of a basket. And on the front side of the speaker, we took and we removed the tweeter post. So if you guys look inside of there, you can see that that tweeter is being held up by those kind of spider legs in front of the speaker. And there's no hole in the center of that speaker for water to get down to the voice coil and things like that. But, you know, it's really, really cool what we've done with these. We've also taken and we co-molded that surround to the cone. And what co-molding is when you have like an injection molded thing, you actually mold those two different materials together in the manufacturing process. So you're not just like stitching and gluing them together, so there are no holes again for water to encroach through. They're co-molded, they're chemically bonded, water's not going to get through that surround in that cone. But everything that we've done with these speakers is just to make them as resistant to water and resistant to sunlight as possible.
So again, talking about safety and making sure we're resisting water or moisture coming in. I've muted. I must be sitting on it.
I guess so. No, your mic's on the floor, dude.
It is.
You got a couple of clowns up here, Ernie.
I don't think we're going to be invited again. How did that even happen?
Certainly not.
All right. So, speaker. I think the show's over. I don't
Speaker,
know.
waterproof. Yeah, Ernie, we're done. We're cutting it off here.
Okay. Oh, my wire's exposed. Okay. Anyway, as we're talking about the speaker, a big deal about it, as Jacob was talking about, where the tweeter is actually floating on here, it's a big deal to me to be able to talk about it because the speaker is completely sealed from the front end. Now, why is that important? You see a lot of marine manufacturers that have a tweeter post coming out, and it's got a bunch of gaskets on the back. It's got rubber. It's got some type of silicone. They all have different types of stuff that they say that keeps moisture out. But in reality, you know, moisture's always going to find its way in. So,
oh, dude, I wish I would have brought these pictures. I didn't think about it until now. But one of the pictures that I use in my marine training is from some speakers that I grabbed from warranty. And there's some Comp RT speakers that somebody thought would be a great idea to use in a marine application, but he tried to use silicone to seal up around the backside of the speaker to whatever he was mounting it to. And there were like 3 layers of silicone on this thing, but water still got behind it and water still got to the tensile leads because they had corroded and they had all turned green. And that's an example of using non-marine product in a marine environment, specifically salt water. But sorry to ruin your train of thought.
Did anybody else see that this guy just jumped in on my conversation? He's been hanging out with Aaron too much, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, no, what was my train of thought? Yes, being completely sealed off, right? So I've seen so many high-end boats. I get to go to Lake Havasu for the poker run event that we do, and we see a lot of boats and a lot of really high-end systems. And one of the times I was out there, you saw a huge boat, very expensive boat with a very big system that was where the speaker was installed. But what you saw, even though they were new speakers, you saw water or actually stains like rust stains coming on the speaker post, right? Or coming out of the speaker post, just because of the moisture coming through there. I mean, it's a big deal. Another big deal I noticed on our entry-level marine speakers this year, we actually went away. We used to have a post that came out from the back, and they're actually sealed now from the back, or sealed. They're sealed without the tweeter coming out there, or not come from the post, but it's on this spider you were once mentioning, and I couldn't keep a straight face. But a big deal why it's noticeable is because we actually played it, I think it was at IBEX on our display. We played last year's version versus this year's version. I mean, I don't have anything that it's measured. No one's confirmed it, but to me, you get a little bit more output having that complete speaker right there without any tweeter coming through.
Well, it's a tiny bit more cone area.
You're doing it again.
Doing what? Hey, well, we got a question. We got a question, Carlos.
I'm messing with you.
Marcus says, can you use marine products in your car?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can use marine products in your car, but one thing to consider, particularly with marine speakers, is that they're voiced a little bit differently than our car stereo speakers. And Stephen, you're drawing with the shower. One thing you have to consider is how they're going to sound in the vehicle. And our marine speakers are voiced a little bit differently. They're designed to be in an open air environment on your boat. So can you erase that, please?
Yeah, so they're meant to be loud, right?
This was a terrible idea, having us both on the show. But anyways, so those marine speakers are designed to be loud. They're designed to be heard in, not a cabin. So that sound is going to disperse. It's going to sound kind of bright, kind of sharp. And our car stereo speakers are designed to be heard inside of a cabin, and they're sometimes designed to be a little bit more smooth sounding, a little bit more natural, just because you don't have an open top and that sound's not being lost everywhere. But there's no reason you can't, but I think car stereo products would be a better choice. Now, as far as marine amplifiers, there's no real difference why you couldn't use a marine amplifier in a car. The main differences are physical and not electronic. So you're going to have gaskets that seal the chassis. They're going to have a conformal coated board, and they're going to use stainless steel terminals and connections that don't impinge directly on the wire. But otherwise, our amplifiers, marine amplifiers anyway, are pretty close to the car version. They're just designed a little different to be protected against water.
Stephen, if you could zoom in on here on the power wire connections, power to ground. So what Jacob's talking about is on car audio amplifiers, when you screw down on the power wire, you're screwing down on the actual wire. You're putting a set screw through that power wire, which is okay in a car audio install. And marine install, did I just mumble again?
Yeah, sounds like it.
In a marine install, that is a huge no-no. So what you're gonna do is, if you can see right there, there's a little metal plate that when you screw down, you're actually gonna screw down on that metal plate, which squeezes that power wire or that ground wire to make sure it doesn't come out. So it's a really big important thing on a marine install.
That's actually one of the regulations that the U.S. Coast Guard puts forth, is that you can't have any sets or screws impinging directly on your wires.
Why is that?
Well, it's because if that wire gets corroded or if it gets stuck in that set screw, you're not going to be able to disconnect that wire from the amplifier, or you're going to have a really hard time doing it. But it also prevents any sorts of sparks from occurring from like a loose connection or something like that. I want to remind everybody really quick that our giveaway ends at 8. So you've got probably, like, depending on what clock you're looking at, maybe a minute or 2 minutes or 30 seconds or something like that. So if you want to enter that giveaway, you better do it quick. But yeah, as far as like marinizing, not marinating, but marinizing your amplifiers, that's going to be the majority of what the difference is. So
what would we call that? The protection against sparks?
Ignition protection. Yeah.
And that's very important in all of our products, ignition protection. For example, on these speakers, right? Super simple speakers. You got your RGB, you got your power and ground, you got spades to go on there to make sure that you're not gonna, well, the female sides are actually gonna go on there to make sure it's completely sealed off. But you're also gonna get these on here. These little pieces are pretty cool because you put your spades in, as you see right there. You put your female in, and now you tighten it up. And it's not a watertight connection, but it is a tight connection where it is protecting yourself from ignition, because that's the last thing you need on a boat. You ever go on a boat, Jacob, that doesn't smell like gas?
No, never.
I don't think one exists.
But that might just be because the boats I've been on are really crappy. But
I've been on yachts, I've been on expensive boats, on like cruisers, or like, you know, you go on those midnight cruises. You always, there's equipment that actually, that sucks in the fumes from the gasoline fumes.
like some kind of pump, right?
Yeah, and they're cool and all, but the Coast Guard wants to make sure that there isn't any ignition, any open fire anywhere on the boat, because when you have fumes and you have a spark, you have a slow fire, right?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. You've got, you're in an enclosed space generally, unless you're on like an outboard or something, but if you're in an enclosed space and you have gas fumes coming out and you have any kind of a spark, you might think that since you're on the water, you're pretty safe from a fire, but you would be surprised how flammable fiberglass is and how little you can do when your boat is on fire. Phil, when he does his marine training, he likes to share a picture of a Boston whaler that burned completely down to the shoreline because somebody didn't have the proper fuse protection or ignition protection on the boat. One of the other things that we offer for ignition protection are marine fuses. And I want to talk about this really quick also. There are a couple different ways that you can make something ignition protected. You don't always have to completely isolate the spark from any ignition source. There's one way that you can do, which is done on a lot of alternators, and it's where you add like a little screen or something around the back of that alternator, where if there was a spark and if it was to ignite any fuel fumes, then that screen would prevent that flame from spreading outside of the alternator. So there may still be the potential for a flame and a spark, but that screen is going to prevent it from spreading. And the other way you can do it is by making something that is completely hermetically sealed so that that spark can't escape and even contact the fumes. So we have this product right here. This is our marine fuse, and this guy is completely hermetically sealed, meaning that the spark can't escape from the fuse housing when it blows up. Now, I want to warn you guys, don't use this thing as a fidget spinner, because I sat here for an hour and a half and took the cap on and off of this thing nonstop, and I did it too many times and broke it. But you can see that fuse looks way different than what we're used to in a car stereo application. It's a little square block, and it's completely hermetically sealed. I'm going to take this apart really quick so I can show you guys what that looks like.
This fuse is actually the gold standard in the marine industry. So when you see brand new boats, that's the fuse that they have on there. So we did not invent that fuse. That is a Bussmann fuse. I think I'll look it up here and confirm, but we have fuses anywhere, and they're, like Jacob said, hermetically sealed, anywhere from 30 amp up to 300 amp. Does that sound right?
300. This one in my hand is a 300 amp fuse. But so they actually make them in larger sizes than AFS fuses. But the way that this works is it sits down on this fuse holder, and this lug is electrically isolated from the plate on the bottom by that little plastic grommet piece right there. So when you put this fuse on top of that fuse holder, there's a metal plate on the bottom and a metal plate on the top that are connected inside of that hermetically fused chamber. You put it on like so, run your nut down on the top, and now the top and the bottom are connected. So you would put this on your battery and you'd use your ring terminals on the top. And if that fuse blows, there's no spark escaping from that housing, and you're pretty well safe from any sort of fire or ignition event.
So in car audio, how far should you have your fuse from the battery, Jacob?
Well, we generally say within about a foot and a half of the battery, but on a boat, you're supposed to have it within, was it 6 inches or 8 inches? 6 inches. Which
why is that?
Well, Phil, our marine guy, hypothesizes that that's because there's about 6 inches between your positive and negative terminal on the battery. So in the event of a short, if you have your fuse protection within 6 inches of the positive terminal, you're protected against even a dead short to the negative terminal directly across that battery. So they are very, very careful to ensure that there's no chance for a spark. While we're talking about charging systems and for boats, Carlos, we were talking about it earlier, but they use what we call ketchup and mustard wire for the power and ground in that boat. So on a lot of boats, new boats anyway, they have a shore power accommodation with like a 110 plug so that you can hook your boat up and charge it from the shore. But the wires, some of the wires coming from your shore power accommodation are going to be black. And that's not going to be ground on a boat. That's going to be one leg of your 110.
Just like at home.
Just like a home. So what we do is we use yellow wire instead of black for ground and red for power when it comes to marine applications. And that's another one of those things that the Coast Guard stipulates must be in place whenever you're designing an electric system for a boat. So I think we got some questions that we've been building up in the chat.
Well, you guys look for a question. We moved on from the speakers to a really important little detail, again, that I really like to look at. And if you can focus in right here on that bottom part of their grill. That is, you know what that's called, Jacob? That little piece that looks like a rat just took a chunk out of the bottom of the grill.
Looks like a weep hole, or I think it's called a weep hole, isn't it?
It is called a weep hole. Can you see that?
So
you guys see that right there?
That's not where a mouse chewed it or anything. That is there for a reason. And Carlos, why don't you tell them why?
So the weep hole, I mean, it's a really cool thing. As we talked about when we go to these shows and you see the speakers are mounted up on a really nice boat with like brand new white leather on there, right? And they put the screws on there. When you got a speaker or a grill, you got the two screws right there. What ends up happening is, yeah, your screws are being are held on there, and they're using stainless steel screws like we talked about, but that grill is going to hold water. It's going to retain water on those points right there. So it's just going to keep building up, building up, building up. So what happens is that screw, that stainless steel screw, is actually going to be sitting in water or moisture, creating rust anyway. So that what that weep hole is going to do is it's just going to continuously drain out water, so you're not going to have any issues whatsoever. Even though we are giving you 316L stainless steel, but those little details are what counts to a customer, right? You're spending money on good product that is designed specifically for the marine industry. A small little detail like that goes a long way.
All right, let's see what we got here. What kind of batteries do these boats use?
Yes.
Hey, so generally, yeah, batteries. No, so generally what you'll see is some sort of 12 or 16 volt system, and they use deep cycle batteries. So your boats are out on the water, and you've got maybe a battery for starting your engine and like a house bank is what they call it. But you're out on the water, and these batteries are designed to be deeply discharged. If you're out there just hanging out, listening to music all day, these batteries can go down to like 10 volts and then be charged right back up. But they have generally like their home bank isolated from their starting battery, so they always have a backup where they can start their engine and get their charging system going on the water, and they are able to drive away. Because if you had them in parallel, there was no kind of isolation, and you ran your batteries way down, you'd be stuck out there on the water. But yeah, generally it's like some kind of dual bank with deep cycle batteries.
When you see all these guys with boats that love to go out there and just jam out in the water, I mean, plus you're having a couple beers, you totally forget. You're like, oh man, I got too comfortable. You want to make sure you have enough power to get back home. You probably shouldn't be driving at that point, your boat, but you still would need to get back home, right? You're going to limp back home.
What's the least amount of watts these marine speakers need? That's a great question. So really you can run them on any kind of power you have available. even a factory head unit, most of our marine speakers would sound really good, which is generally about like 12 and a half watts. Our marine speakers are pretty sensitive. A lot of guys use like the KM65s on a boat with just a radio. And while we're on this subject, I want to talk to you guys about something real quick. We have power ratings for our speakers that sometimes they'll just say they're rated for 65 watts RMS. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to put 65 watts RMS on them or they're not going to sound good. That means they work up to 65 watts RMS, sometimes a little bit higher if you're smart with your power. But that's been confusing for people, so moving forward, we're changing how we rate speakers with a power range. So in the future, you'll see something like anywhere from 10 watts to 100 watts maximum or something like that. But really, any amount of power would work well, unless you've got one of these like KMTC11s over here, and they're gonna probably want like at least 50 or 100 watts. You wanna get that cone moving a little bit so the coil can cool itself off.
So I'm glad, that question was asked, because we see a lot of times guys are like, yeah, man, you know what? Those speakers just can't handle they can't handle a ton of power. I mean, we see that in car audio too. Guys are like, hey, man, I want speakers. I want that 4x6 that handles 850 watt. And you're like, what are you putting 850 watts to a 4x6 for? And now you look at these huge 50-pound 4x6s. Where are you going to mount that? It's a big deal to us to be able to talk about the way we design our speakers. They are designed here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. These guys do a really good job of it. They want to make sure that they're going to fit in the majority of vehicles, whether it's in car audio or in marine audio. We don't overbuild the speakers. We build them so that you get exactly what you're looking for. Like we said, we want to fill the needs for everybody. These speakers don't require a ton of power, but they will handle quite a bit of power, right? So, I mean, if you want really loud, big power, go to some KMXLs, right?
Yeah.
Or the big 11-inch cans. We got the solution for you. Want moderate power? Actually, I don't want to sell these speakers short, but these coaxes, 6.5 inch, we got them 4 inch, 6.5 inch, 8 inch. They handle quite a good bit of power, guys, and they sound great. That's the biggest part is these speakers, not only are they designed to handle power, they can handle a lot of power, they don't require a ton of it, but they sound great no matter what. I mean, you can only make them better, right? So that was a really good question.
Yeah, let's look at what kind of gaskets do the speakers have. So it depends on your speaker.
Steven, you want to get back over there.
But these KM65 speakers have kind of a foam material gasket on them. And these are going to work good in just about any application. But when you step up to the higher end speakers like the KMXLs, we put like almost like a rubber, maybe a Sanaprene.
Here, before we get in trouble, it's a proprietary nylon gasket.
Ah, well, there you have it from Carlos himself. But this is it feels rubbery. It's not made of foam like the other gasket. So when you screw the speaker down onto that mounting surface, that rubbery feeling material is going to squish out and seal up the holes and seal up any deviations in the mounting surface that might allow water to get through. It's a good question.
So does that comply with any of the anything ABYC NMMA, Jacob?
Good thing you asked, and actually it complies with international standard that is, I think you got all these numbers, ISO 12216, which is the same standard that your windows and portholes and things like that, doors have to go through on a boat. So they're not going to allow any water to get behind that speaker in the event that the boat is sinking. So like if you had water like up to here on your speaker, water's not going to be leaking through that speaker or behind it. It's not going to allow that boat to sink any faster.
It's a big deal when you're putting it on a boat, guys, and you're spending quite a bit of money on it. You got an expensive boat, and you're spending good money on speakers. You want to make sure that those speakers are not going to let water come in. God forbid a big wave comes over, and hits your boat, and now you're going to get water leaking into the boat. So these are very safe. Again, safety is super, super important with our products. Something else I want to talk about. Marine RCAs. What the heck are marine RCAs, Jacob? I mean, aren't these just RCAs that are green and white?
No, they're a little bit different.
So what makes these different, Jacob? I mean, is it just because the jacket's a little bit longer?
Yeah. No, pretty much. I mean, so those are going to seal up to the amplifier and prevent water from like going inside the connection on the amplifier.
They seat up real tight on here. Again, making sure you're not getting any moisture coming in through the RCA whatsoever. I think we've all seen, you've worked on boats, you've seen installs where you have rust on the RCAs just because of the moisture that's sitting in there, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in an area where there's a lot of rain, there's always moisture going to be going on in a car because you got day like today, right? It was super cold in the morning, and then afternoon taking the kids out, I'm like, holy cow, like, leave your jackets back inside. It's nice and warm. And when we get out of here, it's probably going to be freezing again. So, I mean, that's where you get a lot of moisture, and we want to eliminate any moisture getting into the amplifiers. So, really cool deal. To my knowledge, I think we're the only ones that are actually doing this right now.
I couldn't
with
tell you.
RCAs.
Let's go to another question real quick. Do they allow lithium batteries in boats? That's a good question, and I don't know. I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
I don't know if there's a governing body that's checking.
Well,
I mean, Coast Guard could be
that's-
looking.
That's one of those things where, like, we'd probably have to consult the boat builder's handbook. I'm sure they have some sort of restriction on what type and, build, I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, configuration of battery would be allowed in a boat, or architecture, I guess maybe would be a better word. But I'm not sure, man. I wish I had a better answer for you.
The only type of lithium-ion cell chemistry currently recommended is lithium iron phosphate.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard Steven, but he's quick on the Google over here, and he said that the only type of lithium battery that's recommended for use in marine applications is a lithium, you say iron phosphate? Lithium iron phosphate battery.
Usually abbreviated to LiFePO4.
Yep, cool. So there you have it. That's what is recommended in boats. Any equivalent of the key in the marine line? No, we don't have.
Well, not in marine. Power
So-
sports.
Yeah, so we don't have an equivalent of the key in the marine line. That key, at least the 200.4, utilizes a microphone to listen to the acoustic profile of the vehicle. We have had some people try to use the key 200.4 on motorcycles before by dangling the microphone over the motorcycle, and I'm sure somebody out there has tried it on a boat as well. But they're not water resistant, and what you're also doing with that is you're measuring the acoustic profile of the garage that you're setting that up in, not the cabin or the listening position or anything like that. So we don't have anything similar to that in the marine line, but I think probably the thing with the most processing power that we have in the marine line is going to be the KXMA line of amplifiers, and they do have a DSP on board that tells you when it clips and things of that nature, but it's not one that you can like tune or tweak yourself. It's pretty much just there for signal processing internally.
I did see some installs, some boat installs when we had the Q series amplifiers that guys were using it, and they were changing the profiles in them to like on a windy day, or you're just out, swimming on the deck or whatever. So that was a cool option. Unfortunately, right now, no. I said yes for power sports because I was thinking the KPXA 304 is basically it's a key 204 without the DSP that is made for Harleys, and it's going to mount behind a radio or under radio. That's what I was thinking, and the KPXA 501. But again, none of those have the DSPs built in, so that was my screw up there. But I mean, if you need something that is going to be exposed to water that doesn't, it doesn't matter if it just gets sprayed, that's another really good solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do one more, and then let's move on to the housekeeping for tonight. So, Kicker, is the marine fuse good for waterproof applications? Hey, Jacob, what's going on? I'm also Jacob. Oh, Jacob Blackie. Hey, man, what's going on? So yeah, the marine fuse is absolutely good for waterproof applications. So since it is hermetically sealed, that also means that water can't get inside of that fuse, as well as air and dust, dirt, anything of that nature. And of course, your fuse holder is going to be close to the battery, so there shouldn't be any water encroaching on that anyway. And I think if you've got water like flooding your battery compartment, you probably have a bigger problem with your boat. But yeah, man, there's no reason, I mean, why you couldn't use these in a water application. That's what they're designed for. You just wouldn't want to submerge them underwater, because then you'd be shorting the two sides of the fuse against each other, and you know, it would cause a lot of problems.
Well, I would still use that in a car audio install as well. We've seen a lot of dealers using them in car audio, just because, one, you want to make sure that customer's going to come back. If there's a problem, you don't want him going over to, you know, the neighborhood auto parts store, just buying other fuses and continue to blow fuses. You want to make sure that customer's going to come back, and they're not going to be able to find that fuse anywhere else other than a marina. And marinas are usually going to ask for a lot of money for that.
Yep. Actually, as a matter of fact, we use these fuses in our Bronco.
Yep.
If you guys have ever looked in the back of them, at the battery bank, we have a whole line of the marine fuses right there attached directly to the lithium battery bank in the back of the Bronco. So, fun fact for you. All right. Is Kicker going to do an SPL subwoofer like Wet Sound did with the XXX series? Bobby, as far as I know, that's not on our plan, but it might be something worth bringing up if there's a spot in the market for it. I don't know if there's if people are doing SPL competitions with boats. That's not a scene that I'm super familiar with. But I tell you what I have seen, and I'm not recommending that you do this in any way, but one of our guys put some L7X subwoofers in his boat. And what he did to kind of help with making them waterproof is putting some sort of water repellent spray on the cone and the surround.
Resistant, water resistant.
Yeah, water resistant, exactly. Nothing is waterproof or anything like that, truly. But as you guys know, those L7Xs have paper cones. So something had to be done to make them resistant to water, and so he put a spray on it, and we're going to see how that goes. But if it's like a show boat and you're not going to be on the water or anything, then I'd just say use the L7Xs as long as they're not exposed to water, exposed to sunlight, things like that.
We got customers. I mean, obviously right now we don't have anything that I know of in the works for a product like that. I know we definitely don't have one right now in the current lineup, but we do have a lot of customers that want more power than just what our Marine 10 and Marine 12 is going to handle. So they're using the Comp Rs, they're using CVXs, they're using L7s. Those are completely sealed from the front. So long as you can seal it in the back, you are good as gold. I mean, guys are using it as OEM. The OEM boat builders are putting L7s on boats from the factory. They're just making sure that everything's sealed from the back. And again, make sure you're using your, oh my God, what is this filter? What am I not thinking about?
Subsonic, low pass.
Subsonic filter. Make sure you're using your subsonic filter, guys. Because if you're not using that subsonic filter, those speakers are gonna fail.
We got one more. Does Kicker have a marine head unit? Yeah, actually, Eric, I'm glad you asked. That's something that we kind of forgot to talk about. But we do actually... Yeah, so Carlos is going to get them pulled up on the computer for you real quick. And we've actually got several different versions of marine head units. We have a KMC2 and a KMC3, which are going to be kind of the entry-level source units. KMC2 is going to be the round version, and KMC3 is the square version. And these are pretty much the same radio. But these are going to have all your basic functionalities like a Bluetooth connection, auxiliary USB input, and of course they're all water resistant. Then when you move up to the KMC4, you get a little bit higher quality display, something you can actually look at album art on, and you also get a Zone 2 control built into that radio, along with a couple other doodads. And then the top end radio is going to be the KMC5. And this radio is like Sirius XM ready. It has the input for a backup camera, so you can use this for side-by-sides or even, put a backup camera on your boat. It's got a
In case you were
amplified...
pulling someone behind you,
Yeah,
or if
yeah.
you're got too much junk in that trunk of the boat, you can see what you're backing into when you're docking. What was that?
And,
Who's interrupted now?
yeah, right.
Yeah, look who's interrupting now, Carlos.
Per uno momento, please.
But the KMC5 actually has an amplified Zone 2 output, so it's got a total of 6 speaker outputs, which means you can have up to 12 4-ohm speakers wired to that radio if you put 2 in parallel on each channel. And it's also got RCA Zone 2 outputs. So KMC5 is the big dog of the lineup. KMC4 is like your upper mid-level radio, and then your 2 and 3 are going to be your entry-level marine radios. And these are all waterproof. They've all got the same protections that the rest of our marine products have, and they work great.
Let's see, what else we got here for notes? Okay, well, we've touched everything subwoofers. Let's talk about that sub that's over there.
Yeah, so a couple different options for marine subwoofers. This one is the TB subwoofer enclosure, and this guy's got kind of like an ABS plastic enclosure around it, and it uses a Comp RT subwoofer and a Comp RT style passive radiator. And it's got a nice deep low end response. It's got a bracket that allows you to mount it flat like this or vertically if you so choose.
Let me move it so you can see it from the side.
That's all right, man. But these guys, just like Carlos was explaining earlier, these subwoofers are sealed from the front side. So water's not going to encroach. Carlos tripped on a stool over here. So water's not going to encroach behind the cone of that subwoofer and get inside of this thing. Same thing with the passive radiator on the back. They're sealed from the front side. As far as like separate marine subwoofers go, we have our KM and KMF subwoofers. Now, these are going to be real similar to our marine speakers with co-molded cones. Co-molded cones. They're going to have composite materials for the basket. But the big difference between the two is the KMF are going to be free air subwoofers. And these are great for if you guys are installing a subwoofer in an area of the boat that's not completely sealed off. Like if you're putting one underneath the gunnel, which is like the edge of the boat, or underneath the captain's helm, or something like that. That's where the free air subwoofer comes in handy. Now, if you're building an enclosure for the boat or fiberglassing something in and you're making it totally sealed on the backside, you're going to want to use just a KM subwoofer. But they're available in 10-inch and 12-inch, and they come with all those features that we talked about before that come with all our marine products.
So in the past, our marine woofers were only available in 10-inch applications, and they worked well in a free air application and a sealed enclosure application, but didn't really excel in either one of them, but will work in either option. So that's why we decided to come out with a free air specific solution and an enclosed specific solution, 10-inch and 12-inch. I mean, it's been really good. But again, if it's not enough power, it's not all the bass you're looking for, if it doesn't slap, we got different options for you, and we got different good options for you. All right, so we did subwoofers.
So somebody's talking about materials for subwoofer enclosures, and that is a good question. He says you don't want to use MDF, and you're exactly right. You don't want to use MDF in a boat because MDF is very hygroscopic, which means it attracts and absorbs water. So if you're in a wet environment, that MDF is going to absorb your water and it's going to kind of disintegrate because MDF is basically a bunch of ground up wood and that's glued together into these panels, and water kind of breaks that down. That wood swells up and it gets really soft. So you have a couple of different options. If you have to use MDF or a hygroscopic material, you might be able to get away with using some sort of bed liner on that enclosure to prevent water from getting inside. That's not the best way to do it. That's not the way I recommend to do it. Fiberglass is going to be your best bet, building like a fiberglass enclosure. Or I've seen some guys building whole boxes out of like plexi, before, or Lexan, but you want to use some kind of material that is not hygroscopic or that's not going to absorb water and break down. And generally, fiberglass is what people use, just like what the rest of the boat is made out of.
Why are you using big words, man? I can't even spell what you just said.
Because I learned that word not too long ago.
So you want to use it?
I want to use it. That's exactly why.
You don't want to use up your words. All right, so let's see. Let's go to Q&A. So, Jacob, Ernie has...
One more question before we go to the
sorry.
Q&A. How does the KM 10-inch subwoofer work in a ported box? I'm considering using them in my new Overland build. Yeah, they're going to work great in a ported box. You're going to want to use the KM10, not the KM-F10, but they'll sound awesome. They're kind of optimized for lower power output, but they're still a really sensitive subwoofer, and they sound really good. John and I just used those on Scott Martin's boat several weeks back, and the KM-F version, and they were very impressive. They had a lot more output than I was expecting them to have. But don't be like scared away by that low power rating. They're optimized for low power, and they sound fantastic. So, Carlos.
Okay. Are you sure you're not going to interrupt me this time?
No, but continue.
All right. So, question. Ernie has 2 subs in his car. I'm not saying it's Ernie in the bag. I mean, it could be any Ernie, right? Ernie has 2 subs in his car. When a sub is hooked up, the bass slaps. When he hooks up the other sub, the bass isn't as impressive. What the heck did he do wrong?
Well, it sounds like he's got one subwoofer wired out of phase versus the other one. So especially if they're sharing an airspace, that's not going to sound very good. But you've got, even if they're not sharing an airspace, you've got 2 different sound waves opposite one another that are going to cancel each other out. So probably what he needs to do is wire up the other subwoofer opposite of the way that he has it wired right now. And he'll probably
reverse the polarity.
Yeah, just reverse the polarity. He'll get a lot more output.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. And I could tell you back in my install days, there were some days where stuff like that ended up happening. And then you're like, oh, I remember I screwed that up.
Dude, I did it in my first car. I got a bunch of speakers at the store. I think it was Walmart. I threw them in my car in the Walmart parking lot because I just couldn't wait, and powered everything up, and it sounded horrible. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 17. I bought my first car for $500, and yeah, now looking back on it, I definitely had them out of phase, but I remember being confused because at that point, I only understood like DC. I didn't understand AC, so I hooked the speaker up and it worked, and I hooked it up the other way and it worked, and I was like, well, it works both ways. It doesn't matter which way I hook it up, so they were all out of phase, and the sound system sounded terrible and screechy, and I remember showing it off to my friends, and God, I kind of tortured them with that. I didn't know what I was doing.
But it was loud, eh?
Yeah, it was loud, though. It sounded terrible, but it was loud.
All right. Another question. Just hooked up an amplifier to my new Chrysler 300. Nice. Everything was working before, and now there isn't any audio at all. My dad's going to kill me.
Well, so depending on...
Bet you it's his dad's car.
It's probably his dad's car, too, but yeah. So a lot of these Chrysler 300s actually need a resistive load on each of the speaker outputs coming from the radio. And if you don't have a resistive load there, you're not going to get any output from any of the speakers in the vehicle coming from the amplifier, because that radio is looking to make sure that there's no kind of a short on those wires. And without a resistive load, the radio thinks that something is wrong. So likely what you need to do is get a KISS load or a KISS load 2 so that you can get some resistance on those channels and wire it into the wires you have going to the amplifier, and everything should turn back on and work properly if that's what the issue is. But more than likely, that's the problem, is you don't have a resistive load on your speaker channels from the factory radio.
So smart radios, there's about 3 versions of them, right? The first version, check engine light would come on. The second version, I think at a certain volume, everything shuts down, or the audio shuts down, but the newest version is like everything just shuts off completely until you go ahead and you put that dummy load back in, or you put a dummy load, or you take off the LOC or that amplifier that you hooked up, or if you change out a speaker. So these new cars are very, very tricky. All right, fourth question. I have a CXA 304 and the CXA 401. They sound great, but my 4-channel amp is getting really hot, and the bass amp isn't. Should I be concerned?
No, in this situation. So we're going to get a little bit into amplifier architecture here, but the CXA 360.4 is a Class AB amplifier, which means that it's not quite as efficient as a Class D amplifier. And when we're talking efficiency in terms of amplifiers, we mean how much of that power coming into the amplifier gets turned into sound versus how much gets turned into heat. So with the Class AB amplifier, more of that energy coming into the amp is going to get turned into heat because it's less efficient, and you're going to feel that on the top of the amplifier. Now, if your amp is not going into protection mode because of the heat, then you're probably okay. Your subwoofer amplifier is not going to get quite as hot because it's a Class D amplifier, and less of that energy is getting transformed into heat versus sound. So it's probably pretty normal for your CXA 364 to be hotter to the touch than your subwoofer, your 400.1.
All right, now this one was my favorite question.
Oh. What do we got?
Took my car to the shop to get a radio installed. Ever since then, when I hit the brakes, my horn honks. It's super annoying at rush hour traffic.
Sounds like you got pranked by your friend, man.
So we actually had a video, a TikTok video, which everybody calls Tic Tac.
Tic Tac, yeah. Yeah, Tic Tac.
And we just couldn't get it up. So we wanted to show that. We wanted to share that. But yeah, you're obviously getting pranked. I mean, you see stuff like that all the time. It's hilarious. I wish I would have thought about it. We can still do my wife's car.
Yeah, that'd be funny. She's driving home from her store.
All right, so I think this is everyone's favorite time, fail picks.
Oh yeah, these are always fun. Let's see what we got today.
Ernie, can you show me? And this is a classic example of, guys, the box isn't working. Did you use the right box for the woofers? Yeah, I used the box it came in.
Yeah, so this is actually one that I got when I was working in tech support a couple years ago. And I just remember how gobsmacked I was when I got this. And the guy was talking, he's like, yeah, I got them in the box that they came in, and they don't sound very good. And he thought that the subwoofers might have been hitting the bottom of the seat, and that's why it sounded bad. But he said he had his gain and his bass boost turned all the way up, and he looked under there and he didn't see him hit the bottom of the seat, so he didn't know what was going on. But this is just one of those things where I guess he misunderstood what we mean when we say put it in a box. But that's classic.
Well, dangerous thing here is the ground. Did you guys see where the ground's at here?
Where is it? I don't see it. Oh.
Well, at least he didn't use the seatbelt bolt.
Yeah, the seatbelt bolt. But so the ground is in the floorboard up there, or is that like a bracket or something?
It's got to be a floorboard.
Yeah, I hope the amp is at least mounted down.
Yeah, it's probably got like a pound of Velcro on there.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, Velcro.
That's how I put my kid in his car seat.
Velcro.
Or duct tape.
Yeah. Poor Chris.
All
what
right.
do we got next?
Next one. Wow.
What is going on here?
So
I see a wire tapped into the fuse holder, but it doesn't look like there's any kind of connector on that wire. It's just stuffed into the fuse holder.
I don't think there's a fuse in there.
It doesn't look like there is, but I'm so zoom in on that on the right there. Like those wires are those solid wires that are okay, that's just
those?
Wow, dude, those are all twisted together up there like that with just electrical tape, and what is going on?
Well, that's well.
Oh, you love to see this kind of stuff, man. But hey, this is why we all get paid, right?
Here, there's power.
At least it's connected to a fuse box. It's not connected to a fuse, but it's connected to the fuse box.
Well, remind me to tell you the story about the fuse. Oh, look at this. This has to be from. See the scratching on the metal there?
Yeah.
That's got to be from this. It's probably sparking.
It could be from that. It could be from some kind of like, I don't know, some kind of weird plastic or metal piece that was around that. I don't know, man. That That's something. I'd have to see that in person.
That's in an Audi,
to decipher it. Yes, it is in an Audi.
Well, we'll be praying for you, my guy.
Same car.
This is the same car, Ernie says. Oh, man. So it looks like they cut some kind of important wire, and when they turned the key on, they realized something wasn't working, and they just twisted it back together. So there's one way you could have made this better. Actually, two. Solder and heat shrink would be the best way to put that back together. That way it doesn't short out, your connection's more reliable, but you're on the right path as far as connecting the wires back together, I guess.
Oof.
Is this also the same car, Ernie?
I'm afraid it is.
Is this a friend of yours, Ernie?
Yeah, you must know this guy. This is what Ernie was teaching people to do back when he was a trainer.
This is Ernie's project car.
Yeah, but there's not a ring terminal on that wire or anything. That's awful. That thing's about to snap off.
At least wire tie the power wire. Yeah, where's the fuse?
Yeah, there's no fuse either. Oh, Lord. What do we got next, man? Oh,
Wow.
This looks like a good one. So the first thing I notice is what is going on with that battery terminal right there.
Well, I like the quick release.
Yeah, that quick release there. That wire's just stuffed into the battery terminal. You could have put a ring terminal on it and then used any one of those 4 lugs that are right next to it. That would be a better way to do that.
But it wouldn't be a quick release, Jacob.
It says return to Walmart. That's probably a good idea. That wire on the left, look at the back of the battery where that wire's going. It's rubbing right on that bracket that's probably grounded to the car. So that's a short waiting to happen. Maybe that battery shifts and pinches it.
Here's your short.
Oh, man. That is wild. This guy is living life on the edge.
Well, so Jacob, I mean, these are pretty cool. I mean, you could use a fuse holder, you could not use it, or I mean, you could use a fuse, you could not use a fuse, you could use distribution block, or God, I can't even think of it. What's the name of this thing? We used to circuit breakers. Yes.
Breaker, yeah.
So we used to, when I was installing Jacob, we used to set a guy's car, and all the gains are set, everything was perfect. And we tell him don't mess with it, and the guy would be coming back because he's clipping it and he's popping fuses. And we're like, you did something else wrong, because we had checked it, everything was good to go. And no, I'm popping fuses. So then they'd say, you know what, you're selling me cheap fuses. So you know what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a circuit breaker down. And we had this was back in 2000, 2001 when I was still installing. This guy came in on a Friday night.
You know, I was 4 years old when you were installing.
He had a brand new Grand Am GT. It was silver. I remember because I was like, oh man, that car is sexy. And he had a date that night, and he's like, look, man, you guys did the install. Oh no, we offered to do the install. He didn't want to pay $60 install for the amp install. So he says, I'll do it myself. So him and his cousin, who had been on all the forums, they went to do the install. And he kept popping fuses, so he said, we're selling him cheap fuses. I want a circuit breaker. Ordered him a circuit breaker, comes in, he's all dressed up, ready to go on a date. He had an AOL date, and he's waiting in the parking lot. He put the circuit breaker on, and he ran inside to use the bathroom. The car was still running. I'm like, why are you blowing fuses and you're getting a circuit breaker now?
So he can put a zip tie around it and keep it from tripping the breaker.
Well,
that fixes the problem, right?
So he had to go to the bathroom. So he ran to the bathroom, he had the car running. And then when we started smelling something weird, the guy had the door open. That's where he ran his wire through the door jamb. So now he had that circuit breaker zip tied. There's no way you're going to get that off. And as he's opening the door, closing for the rest of the week, right, he constantly was rubbing, and he rubbed that jacket free. So it was creating a short. And I'll just tell you this. We ran up with cutters, and when we tried to cut the wires, the cutters melted. We couldn't do anything for the kid. Like, the fire department showed up. They're like, it's an electrical fire. We cannot put it out. You just got to let it burn down.
That's unfortunate, man.
So have insurance, guys. If you don't know what you're doing, have insurance on your car.
Or a fuse.
Yeah, or a fuse. Just use a fuse.
Just use a fuse.
I mean, circuit breakers, yeah, great idea. Know what you're doing. If you're a guy doing an AOL date at 9 Friday night, don't be messing around with it. Go to the right guy, spend a little bit of money, do it the right way.
It's Tinder now.
Tinder, yeah.
Yeah, it's not AOL. Showing Carlos's age here real quick. But,
Or Tic Tac.
Tic Tac, yeah, as Ernie says.
All right, cool picks.
We got about 15 minutes.
Chicago, guys, a hot dag.
So we got about 15 minutes. We're going to blow through these cool pictures, and then we're going to figure out who won the contest. So this was one that was posted up in the Kicker Club that's run by Andy on Facebook. And this is a really cool build that the guy did with, looks like a L7X10.
I think this is pretty sexy, man. This box is well built.
Yeah, I like the two-tone carpet on there. It looks really nice.
Yeah, and the carpet's done well. Is this a vent over here? Is that a vent, or is that where you put potato chips?
That's the trash can. No, that's the port, it looks like. So yeah, it looks like it'd sound awesome.
Yeah, I would love to hear this install.
That's right.
Pretty
That's
cool.
Wade's build, Andy says. Yep, that's Wade Hensley, I think, in the Kicker Club.
Wade, really cool install, man. We'd love to hear it one day.
There's his amp rack, and that looks pretty clean too.
Pretty well done.
Fantastic job, man. And this is one that Bill shared with me. It is a Kicker install and looks like an old Mercedes. And I thought, I'm going to out myself here, but I thought it was
old Mercedes. Say classic.
Classic, right. I thought it was a Fox body Mustang because of the headlights. I took a quick glance at it, and that's what I thought. But Bill roasted me for that, and, I wasn't around, so that's my excuse. But cool license plate guy. I love it.
Now, this is one of our guys in Canada, from Canada.
Yep, and I'm actually going to be going up there and maybe seeing him when I go to the CMA Expo in a couple of weeks.
It's a pretty cool jacket, or hoodie. But let's look at the inside.
So I see our marine grills and marine speakers back there.
I like how you flush mounted those subs.
Yeah, can you zoom in on that a little bit for those of us with phones? And my eyes, because my vision's going bad. Yeah, that looks cool.
False floor, really cool.
I like the green bars in there.
Yeah.
That's something you don't see all the time, especially
Totally
with
different.
towers mounted to it.
Very cool. That thing's got to be loud. Like Cousin Tito says, it's laps, eh?
Cousin Tito says a lot of things.
I know, huh? So that's what we got.
What's up next?
Events. Let's talk about events. If I can open up here. All right, you want to share my screen? Say it again? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I emailed it to you. Check your email, Carlos.
¿Qué es email?
Outlook.
¿Qué email?
Give us just a second here, guys. We're getting it pulled up.
No, none of you have sent me. Oh, no.
What do you mean? I know what I did.
There you go. You want to share this? So cool Bronco.
Cool white screen there.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is sexy.
Oh,
That's
we are
right.
having some technical difficulties, it looks like.
There you
All right,
go.
there we go. There. Yeah, there we go.
That's cool inside.
Carlos was talking about AOL earlier. He tried to go to AOL.
Yeah, that's right.
Check his inbox.
I don't even hear the dial-up. Am I connecting it?
That is just an awesome looking build, man.
Yeah, really
And
cool.
I
Clean
love
and
what
stuff.
we're seeing today with the marine towers on the bars in the back. That's going to last a long time, water resistant, sun resistant. Probably never going to have to replace those, but that just looks awesome, man. KXMA
995.
amplifiers, yeah, good stuff.
So I don't know if I told you about this. Was it about a year or 2 years ago? We went to Havasu, and I had a rental car, and I think the guys had to have a meeting before, and I woke up real early, so, oh no, they had a photo shoot.
You woke up early?
Yeah, I woke up super early because I got kids and I'm used to my son waking up 6:30. That kid doesn't sleep, man. He stays up all night and wakes up at 6:30. Well, anyway, I wake up early and I go down to the beach because I think it was my first time there. I'd never seen it. And there's a guy there with a OJ Bronco that had the KMXL cans, 11-inch cans. 2 of them were on the bumper. He had redid the bumper so they were facing out, and 2 on the hood. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's so awesome. That looks like you did a lot of work on there. He goes, well, yeah, I mean, this is the only way I can have cans on there without having to do big bars on the back. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, I love how everyone's doing these older style classic installs, and I love how we're getting a lot of people using our marine stuff in these off-road type vehicles, and it only makes sense, right?
Yeah, so for that guy who asked earlier if you can use marine products in a car stereo application, absolutely. So we got just a few minutes left, so we're going to wrap it up and see who won the contest drawing tonight. And we're going to see who the first winner is for the, well, I don't remember what the prizes are.
Jeez, what are the prizes?
Ernie, you know what the first prize is? John usually says it for me.
So we got a BF100, a TW2, and an EB400. I want to say the BF100 is the first place,
likely, yeah.
TW2 second place, EB400 third place.
Sounds about right. So who's the third place winner? Let's
so
get it up
Mr.
on the
Bill Frog,
screen.
let us know.
Kevin S. from Alabama. All right, Kevin. You win. Dude, John usually says this part for me, so I don't know what to do for the contest winning. So, I guess send an email to bill@social@kicker.com.
No, you got to do it like John, though.
I can't do it like John.
Come on. So like I say,
guys, you gotta, you gotta send an email to bill@social.com and let him know that you won, and we'll get you squared away with your prizes. Let's see who the second place. You what? Okay, we reach out to you, yeah, since you submitted your info and everything.
I'll call you.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's see who the second place winner is. Weston W. from Michigan. Congratulations, Weston. You are going to get the, looks like the TW2, and these are our new true wireless earbuds. They come with a little charging deal, and they're a lot like AirPods. So congratulations, Weston. Enjoy. And finally, the first place winner, Devin S. from Tennessee. Congrats, you get the Bullfrog 100. So once again, Bill's going to reach out to you and get you guys your swag, and congratulations on the prize, and be sure and enjoy them for me. So we've got the after show with Andy right after this once we get wrapped up. So for those of you guys who want some more kicker content, want to hang out and talk with Andy, be sure to tune in for that. He always does a great show, and make sure you like and subscribe if you like his content. It's on his YouTube channel, Living Loud with Andy. So be sure to check that out if you guys are interested.
check out Kicker Club on Facebook as well, guys. And we want to say a thank you to Ernie back there, Bill Frog. JW wasn't in today. He wasn't feeling good. But Logan, I hope you feel better soon. Oh, he's on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so he's
this
probably sitting there
guy.
giggling at us. And most of all, I think I want to give a thank you to you guys for being patient with us on our first show together. We had a few hiccups. We couldn't keep a straight face, but it was fun anyway. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Yeah, so any comments, concerns, or complaints, call Aaron right now. Or wait till midnight. That's the best time, midnight. Don't worry, that guy goes to sleep at 6 o'clock. He's dead
he was
asleep.
in the chat. He said good night at like 7:45
Well,
when we started.
that was a late night for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what, man? We never got to talk about the E before the S's, the speakers and the subs and Estadio.
Hey, shorts.
Dude, we missed that. We missed the spicy story. Man, Steven. Oh, man. Well, I guess, I mean, you're going to have to catch us next time. Hopefully, we'll have enough time to tell you all those stories, and we can talk about Bill's spider came out. I mean, did I tell you about when I was with Dennis, we had brand new hotel. His roach was like this big. It was just like fighting me.
Yeah, Dennis told me that story.
That's how it goes.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties there. I think Ernie's trying to tell Carlos to get to the point.
Well, Ernie was trying to get us, we wanted to end this show like 15 minutes after it started. Ernie kept us here, so now we're going to keep him a little bit longer.
Yeah, he's got a shock collar around my ankle. Every time I tried to stand up, he zapped me with it, so.
Well, guys, I hope you had a fun show. We had a good time hanging out with you guys. Again, send all your comments and complaints to Aaron right now. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Yep. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for tuning in.